Bashar Barhoum woke in his dungeon prison cell in Damascus at dawn, thinking it would be the last day of his life. The 63-year-old writer was supposed to have been executed after being imprisoned for 7 months, but he soon realized the men at the door weren't from former Syrian President Bashar Assad's notorious security forces ready to take him to his death. Instead, they were rebels coming to set him free. As the insurgents swept across Syria in just 10 days to bring an end to the Assad family's 50-year rule, they broke into prisons and security facilities to free political prisoners and many of the tens of thousands of people who disappeared since the conflict began in 2011. Barhoum was one of those freed who was celebrating in Damascus. "I haven't seen the sun until today," Barhoum said. Videos shared widely across social media showed dozens of prisoners running in celebration after the insurgents released them, some barefoot and others wearing little clothing. One of them screams in celebration after he finds out the government has fallen. Torture, executions and starvation in Syria's prisons have been infamous for their harsh conditions. In 2013, a Syrian military defector known as Caesar smuggled out over 53,000 photographs that human rights groups say showed clear evidence of rampant torture, but also disease and starvation in Syria's prison facilities. Just north of Damascus, in the Saydnaya military prison, known as the Human Slaughterhouse, women detainees, some with their children, screamed as men broke the locks off their cell doors. Amnesty International and other groups say that dozens of people were secretly executed every week in Saydnaya, estimating that up to 13,000 Syrians were killed between 2011 and 2016. Tens of thousands of detainees have so far been freed. Over the past 10 days, insurgents freed prisoners in cities including Aleppo, Homs, Hama, as well as Damascus. Families seek loved ones who have been missing for years. Meanwhile, families of detainees and the disappeared skipped celebrations of the downfall of the Assad dynasty. Instead, they waited outside prisons and security branch centers, hoping their loved ones would be there. They had high expectations for the newcomers who will now run the battered country.
Israeli forces have seized a buffer zone in the Golan Heights established by a 1974 ceasefire agreement with Syria after a lightning rebel advance ended Syrian President Bashar Assad's rule. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Sunday that the decades-old agreement had collapsed and that Syrian troops had abandoned their positions, necessitating the Israeli takeover. Israel captured the Golan Heights in the 1967 Mideast War and annexed it. The international community, except for the United States, views it as occupied Syrian territory. Several airstrikes hit the Syrian capital on Sunday, just hours after Syrian opposition took control of Damascus. A powerful airstrike hit the Kafr Sousa neighborhood where the Bashar Assad regime's security and customs headquarters were based. In a separate incident, a fire was set in the building of immigration and passports in Damascus. The cause of the fire was not clear. Earlier, an Associated Press journalist in Damascus reported airstrikes in the area of the Meza military airport, southwest of the capital. The airport has previously been targeted in Israeli airstrikes, but it was not immediately clear who launched Sunday's strike. The Israeli military refused to comment on the airport strike. Israel often does not publicly claim responsibility for attacks in Syria. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Israeli forces have seized a buffer zone in the Golan Heights established by a 1974 ceasefire agreement with Syria. He spoke on Sunday after a lightning rebel advance ended Syrian President Bashar Assad's rule. Netanyahu said the decades-old agreement had collapsed and that Syrian troops had abandoned their positions, necessitating the Israeli takeover. Israel captured the Golan Heights in the 1967 Mideast War and annexed it.
يا لطيف يا رب تسترنا يا رب تسترنا